The title of this conversation is Be in the Biz, Non-Traditional Paths to a Career in Entertainment. Now, the reason we titled it Be in the Biz is because tomorrow there's a day-long symposium. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. It will go all the way until 7 o'clock in the evening. There'll be panel discussions all day long. There'll be breakfast, there'll be lunch, there'll even be some food at the end of the day with a networking reception. But we are flying in industry experts from Hollywood to talk to our attendees about the entertainment industry and pathways into that business. But we're kicking off tonight with this conversation as a teaser for what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't want to replicate tonight all the things that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, so we're going to take a slightly different approach tonight. This is the beginning of the NAACP's 116th convention. As you know, because you've been at many of these conventions, there's some very important issues being discussed over this next week. Some important decisions to be made, resolutions to be passed, right? So what is the significance of a conversation about the entertainment industry in the context of the larger mission of the NAACP during this convention?
Sure.
Nicholas.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, and excited to be on the panel with you all. This is my 26th convention, and so yes, and
That's
I'm
pretty
only
special.
You're right. And so entertainment is an important part of the conversation. One, because we have our Image Awards platform, which is essential to the industry. It's how we recognize those who are not always getting recognized in ways that they should. And secondly, we have to remember that everyone in the industry are workers. They have jobs, they have careers, they need the same type of advocacy that we would give our federal government workers, that we would give people in corporate America. They need to be advocated for in the same way. And so we need to have these conversations here, just like we have conversations about everything else.
That's right. That's a great answer. Steve, you publish Hollywood Confidential. And one of the things we talk about at the NAACP Hollywood Bureau is the fact that Hollywood is no longer contained to a zip code, that the business of Hollywood now is a global enterprise. And you can be anywhere. You can be in Charlotte, North Carolina, and participate in the Hollywood experience. Is that what you found through your work in the industry?
Absolutely. I was just sharing with you, currently I'm bi-coastal, so I'm in Ohio right now, and I'm still able to get done what I need to get done on a day-to-day basis from Ohio because of the relationships I've made, but also because the landscape has shifted. Social media has played a huge and significant role in our ability to connect direct with consumers, build our own audiences, and put ourselves on. We don't have to wait to be greenlit by a network anymore. A friend of mine, Tabitha Brown, who wrote the foreword to my book, Plug, she is an amazing example of someone who just from the comfort of her living room was able to pick up her cell phone, connect direct with consumers, and blow up. And she'd been trying to become a famous actress by traditional means on a traditional path for 20 years, and she got nowhere. But that TikTok and that social media is an amazing tool that we can use to position ourselves to be a star. So yeah, we don't have to be in Hollywood anymore.
Got it. Mona, those of us who create content and distribute content should realize that there's a tremendous responsibility that goes wrong with that. One reason for that responsibility is the fact that that content travels the globe and it influences people's perceptions around the world. They see us in the ways in which we're depicted in the media. I know that you recently returned from South Africa working on a very, very special film project there. Talk about how you've seen the images from the media impact the perception, particularly of our community around the world. Uh-oh, let's turn it on. You see it?
Yes, it's very important. Just being, because what I do, like I said, hair design. From being a viewer of TV growing up and seeing so many ways that they portray us. And that's why for me, when I got the opportunity, even before I entered into TV and film, just being a hairstylist in itself in a salon, wanting to make sure that the people that look like me look the best that they could be. And coming from across the pond, like you just said, and just coming back and just seeing how the difference of things, but yet so similar, we have to make sure that the importance be placed in for our people to know that what we bring to the table, especially creatively, we need to make sure that it's instilled in everybody, especially our youth. And that's why I try to give back with my production company and those that I come and inspire, to try to pour into them so they can know how important that is.
So we just heard three very interesting points of view. Nicholas talked about the importance of the NAACP looking at the entertainment industry as a part of its mission in this convention, because of the issues that Mona just raised, that this industry creates images that travel the world, and there are jobs associated with that, and we, of course, are very concerned about making sure people are paid a fair wage and there's equity in their roles. And Steve talked about the power of social media. He talked about how traditional media may not be the way that folks gain access, but because of the user-friendly properties of social media, everyone has access now. So now I'm going to raise the ratchet and ask, should everyone participate in this industry? There is no shortage of content creators. There's no empty space there's no void that hasn't been filled, right? But there's constant entry into the industry of new people, new voices, and that's a wonderful thing. But is everyone cut out to do this? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I guess I'm taking the first take at this. My response to that would be, there is a place for everyone in the industry, but it doesn't always have to be in content creation. I'm not a content creator. I love watching a film and then figuring out how we're going to get it to the right audience, and who we're going to screen it in front of, and what feedback we're going to get, and what needs to happen to make it a success, especially if it's a film or a TV project that has meaning and value. And so that's my role in the industry. I don't need to do content creation, though. Follow me on Instagram because I have a good account. But there is a role. There's need. There are editors. There are all sorts of positions in the industry that you can take outside of content creation.
Yep, I agree with everything you said. You just got to know your role and then play that role to the best of your ability. It is oversaturated. Also, there is an artistry to content creation. You don't just point a camera and put it out there and say, I'm a content creator. Okay, what differentiates you? What makes you special from every other person who has an iPhone? And so I think you have to know your lane. You have to study to show yourself approved, and then show up to your best ability. What makes you special? What is your point of differentiation? What have you uniquely been called to give the world? When you tap into those things, then you're more than a content creator. You're tapping into your purpose, and that resonates.
Yeah, because I think everybody should understand that we are all here to inspire one another. So for me, those that inspire those that like food, some people like hair, some people like clothes, some people like all the things. So just like both of you guys said, but for me, my additives, just know that we're here to inspire and use it to the best of our ability.
When you started out as a hair expert, right, working in that field, did you know from the very beginning that you wanted to work in the film and television industry?
No, I didn't even want to do
So how
hair.
did you make that transition?
I didn't even want to do hair. But it was so easy for me. It was like a hobby because, like I said, I've always lived my life to inspire. So when I realized I couldn't do my hair, my mom couldn't do my hair, they couldn't understand 4C, and I prayed and I asked God, can you teach me how to do my hair? And ended up doing other people because they didn't have money in my community to do their hair either. And I just took that as, like he said, as a purpose to be able to do my friends. I did all my friends through high school, college, all the things. And then once I got to that crossword from leaving college, I was like, what am I going to do? And my cousin came downstairs one day and she was like, let's go to beauty school. And I was like, you know what? Still thinking about her, not even myself, because I'm here to help others. And when I got to the beauty school and the lady was giving the information, and she said something that was very clear. She said, you do know if you're a good hairstylist, you can make up to $100,000. I was like, what? Sign me up. How long is this? And I knew then I had that motivation, but I knew I could do that because I was already doing it. It was just a hobby. So no, I didn't know, but I just allowed myself to follow the path of being that person to inspire. And then that's how I ended up getting into TV and film as well. I met a guy at my pastor's house, and he told me after 15 minutes of conversation, didn't even know if I could comb hair or do whatever, but he said he just could tell that I was the one just from my conversation. And he said he was giving me a chance of a lifetime. And 19 years later, here I am.
That sounds like what Steve was talking about in terms of finding your calling. Steve, how did you find your voice as a communicator?
Man, how far you want me to go back, man?
As far as you want to go.
Well, my mother's here, and she told me when I was a baby, and no, I'm just kidding. You know what? I believe that service breeds purpose, and if we can all put ourselves in a position of service, the world will open up to us. In 1999, I was in high school, and I found one of the first instances of digital piracy, which was a project that was supposed to come out in that summer, but I got it in January, and it was The Writings on the Wall, Destiny's Child, the original 4, not the remix. And I downloaded it first, and then after I downloaded it, I got on NetZero, looked up Matthew Knowles' information, and found myself calling his office and saying, put Matthew Knowles on the phone. And they're like, get in line. And I'm like, okay, well, track number 1 is this, and track number 2 is Bugaboo. And by the time I said the third track, Matthew Knowles was on my phone cussing me out like I'm the one who stole the project. Long story short, that opened up the door for my first internship. And I was a digital brand moderator for Destiny's Child. No one even knew what the internet really was back then. And I started my first company when I got to college in entertainment. So I say service opened up the door for me to be where I'm at. So that helped to define my voice. Fast forward, Hollywood Confidential, the event series that I created, same thing. So many content creators were sleeping on my couch. 10, 12, 13 years later, they went on to win Oscars, like a Matthew Cherry, who created a short called Hair Love. Won an Oscar, but at that time, he was on my couch complaining about the lack of opportunity for black filmmakers. So you know what I thought? I'll just create a forum called Hollywood Confidential, which was crazy because I just got to Hollywood and I knew no secrets. But again, wanting to be of service opened up the door for me to now where 12 years later, I have a book with HarperCollins, and I'm sitting here talking to the head of the NAACP. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So put yourself in a place of service, and it will open up the world. And service helped to define my voice.
That's wonderful. Nicholas, there are film studios, TV studios and networks that create these pieces of art, and then they put them out, and then they go, okay, well, how are we going to get butts in the seats? And then they call you.
Yes, they do.
And they say, listen, we've made an investment. We're not sure how we're going to make our money back. Do you have any ideas? And so you end up doing what Steve is talking about and what Mona has talked about, which is you found your calling in helping others identify the best ways to monetize and maximize the situations that they've created. Talk about how you do that.
Translation there was saving their projects. That's what you meant. And I'll say, working in the industry, a lot of people think they know until they don't know. And you come in and you try and help them gain knowledge about what they're missing. We have talked to studios about coming in on the front end, and a lot of studios have changed their position. Let us read the script. Let us see the trailer before it comes out and give you notes on the trailer. There are cultural sensitivities to projects. We can have, I'll give Till for an example, and I don't think I'm disclosing anything that I can't say, but Till was hard. Till is a beautiful film centered around a mother's love for her child. But all we could see was, in the community, was the trauma. And so people didn't want to go see the film because all they could associate Emmett Till with is the trauma of it, though the film was really talking about the mother and her love for her son and how she transferred that into her advocacy. And so we had to talk to audiences. We had to do a lot of messaging around that. And so back to your question is, we are telling studios, come to us on the front end and we can help you because we know your project is good. We know that it has some meaning and value, and we want to get it in front of the right audience.
I think I told you this, But when Till came out, I'm originally from Philadelphia. I flew home, and I took 150 students from my high school to the movie theater to see the film. And I knew it was a movie that they would not have otherwise seen. And they were moved to tears. And then a week later, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but the young boy who played Emmett Till in the film, he did a Zoom call with one of their classes and spoke directly to the students and talked about what that process of making the film was like. I think we need to look at more models like that, where people in the community buy out a theater and host people in the theater. It doesn't really cost that much to buy out a screening of a movie theater. But it's a distribution methodology that we ought to consider.
It's actually less if a church buys out a theater and offers it to their church membership than if the church membership went and bought individual tickets.
And that's something.
Can I offer something?
Please
here?
do.
What the work that he does, he's brilliant and he's very humble. The work that he does, it's difficult when you are dealing with these studio systems, trying to explain our culture and how to position it to people who do not look like us. I did a couple movies. I did Creed and Hateful Eight with Quentin Tarantino as the multicultural agency, and I retired very quickly because I grew tired of explaining myself to a culture that was already committed to misunderstanding us. So I just want to give you your props, Nick, and I also want to take the moment to say this man has hired me and put money in my pocket, and I'm so appreciative. I didn't know we were both going to be on the panel today, but if you need me for anything else, I'm available, as is my bank account, my brother.
But listen, I'm not correcting you, but I do want to add a dimension to what you just said. It's not just people who don't look like us.
That's true.
Amen.
This young lady just returned from South Africa and worked with a crew of South Africans on a major motion picture that'll be coming out in about 1.5 years from now. Why don't you talk a little bit about that experience?
The experience of that, working
Yes,
there?
working in South Africa.
It was different. It was very different, especially in the entertainment, because a lot of times we don't realize that it's so much that goes into what we do to create TV and film. And a lot of people think, especially for projects that are themed our projects, that they think just because people look like us as well, that they can create certain things as well. And it takes a lot of training and it takes a lot of endurance to be able to maintain certain things. The experience, when I say different, it wasn't bad. It was just different because I had to learn to adapt to not having people that really have had access to things. So for me, even with the crew that I had, I'm going to took it upon myself to do Zooms that I'm not going to charge anything for them. I charge money for my classes, but I want to be able to give back to those that really want this for the right reason and be able to showcase and do the things to make us look like we supposed to look. Because a lot of times like I said, I'm a hair designer, so I know y'all here be watching some of the movies and be like, oh, that wig, oh, oh my God, why they choose that? But don't realize that we have a lot of things that we have to go through to get to that point that they don't discuss and tell y'all, that we have 10 minutes to correct something or 5 seconds sometimes. I've had to literally go in and reform something right on the spot so we can keep shooting, because there's so much that we have to do. So it was different. It was an experience that I'm grateful for, but I definitely want to give back to my people in South Africa to make sure that they can be able to tell our stories on that side of the pond and make us look like we're supposed to look.
So I want to drill down a little bit more on this point. Yes. Do we have any people in the audience that are teachers? Any plumbers? Any nurses? Any other profession where you have to get some kind of accreditation? You have to learn a trade before you can actually go to work? What was that? Okay, so we're all familiar with those jobs, those careers, where you have to get some kind of education and maybe even a certificate before you can go out and say, okay, hey, I can fix your plumbing, or I can take care of you in a hospital, or I can teach your children. In the entertainment industry, you can wake up tomorrow morning and just say, I'm a producer. And you haven't done one bit of study or tutelage. You haven't spent any time studying the trade of producing. Sometimes it leads to huge success. Sometimes it leads to disasters. results. So let's chat for a moment about the easy access there is to this industry and what is the consequence of that, if there are any consequences, or should we not care about that? Is that not an issue we should be concerned about? Nicholas?
I get all the tough ones. How do I want to approach this? I would say I'm going to take it from the point of if you are starting in the industry, what are the things you should do? One, I would say get the right team around you. Really, really essential. Everybody talks about the superficiality of people in the industry, but I have encountered the most successful people who have, from the gate, found people who they trust and said, you are part of my team, and where I go, you will go. And we talked about that balance of support and partnership and put money in their pockets. You know, I'm going to make you my assistant on set, or I'm going to have you do my marketing on social, or I'm going to do this. Give the people you trust the jobs and the contracts so that you can have that trust center around you. And then the second thing I would say is, if you do decide you're going to wake up and be a content creator or a producer, or make sure you take it on a date a little, you know. Make sure you dip and dab and do a little, and fall in love with it before you step out and invest. Because if you don't have that passion for it, the industry is going to swallow you up.
Oh, yes.
Steve, what are your thoughts on that same question?
Is there an option, moderator, to skip and just move? No? Okay. You know what? I think there's room for everyone. And I think the education is key. Being trained and certified is key. But I also believe that life can be our greatest teacher and experiences. So I think everyone has something to contribute and bring to the table. But once you get in, whether you've studied and researched or dated and courted properly or not, it is your responsibility. If you want to sharpen your craft, if you want to have longevity, you're going to have to not only surround yourself with people who are better than you, which requires no ego, right? And that's another story for another panel. But you're going to have to raise that skill set, because you don't want to be an improper reflection or representation of us who have done the work in spaces that we have not yet been in. Or if you don't know the proper rates to negotiate on your deal, then you're just taking whatever because you're happy to be in the space, and then we come in as veterans, and then it's an issue and there's a fight.
Right.
So again, I think this is being recorded. There's space for everyone. Howsoever, once you get into the space, do the work that is required to have longevity.
Mona, you've worked with some of the premier talent in our industry. We could sit here and bandy about the names, and everybody would go, wow, you worked with that person and this person. I'm just going to mention one name. One person you've worked with is Will Smith. And I heard him in an interview one time explain the difference between the work ethic between a B student and an A student is a much greater difference than the difference between a C student and a B student. Like, what it takes to be consistently an A student takes such a commitment and a work ethic. And you've worked with people who have that kind of work ethic. So share what that's like to be around that kind of energy.
Well, I can tell you, for me, I am one of those people myself.
Well,
I am. Anybody that know me, my motto for my business is let your work speak for you. You can't just come to the table and not bring the work. And the work is researching. The work is mastering your craft. The work is being up sometimes when everybody else is asleep. Those are things that you have to have in your arsenal on a regular basis. You can't just show up with that. So being in those places, because I worked with Will twice on 2 shows, Emancipation was a lot closer because I led the department on Emancipation. But to see how everything that he said, no joke. He came, he was the first one there. Even though he's an A-lister, he showed and he did the work. He didn't just sit back and say, oh, I'm Will Smith and I'll just get there. You would never see that from him because that's who he is before he became Will Smith. And being in those places make me go harder for anything that I do. And also having other people that are under me watching me as well. I know that I'm influencing them. I don't want to be the type of department head or HOD that sit up in the trailer and eat snacks and all the things. You can't lead if you're not following. You get what I'm saying? So I've always dealt my career with those things. So yeah, it matters. A lot of people think that you can go to sleep and wake up with these things. These things take time and they take energy and they take you doing the work. And the work, I promise you, will speak for you. No matter where you go, people may not know your name, but they're going to say, you remember that girl that was over there with that pink? You see what she was doing? Anybody got her name? You know what I'm saying? I've had it to happen. I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana, a little small little place. And I've worked with, like you said, some of the top, but I know that's from nothing but me putting in the work.
I just want to add, but not just your work ethic, your integrity and your authenticity. You know, we see a lot of people come in and ego or other pieces cause them to lack integrity or become inauthentic. Because yes, we all want you to be global superstars, but your community, the community that you started in, is the one that's really going to hold you down if you stay authentic and true to your purpose, as you can read in his book. And plug.
Getting it.
But yeah, so I just want to add, you know, work ethic is truly important, but also maintain your integrity and live and lead with authenticity.
You started out talking about how the NAACP should focus on the entertainment industry because it is an industry, and there are people who are pursuing careers and they're working, right? And that's certainly part of our focus. How does one figure out their true value in an industry like the entertainment business?
Get a mentor and ask that mentor before you sign that contract. Yeah, get a mentor. You know, when we talk about the NAACP advocating for pay equity, we can't advocate for pay equity in the industry if you're signing a contract way below scale and doing the work for free. And so I would just say, find your mentor in the industry and ask questions before you get to that final stage of your first, you know, big major contract.
I just want to offer and practice not gatekeeping and being community-minded. There's no harm if I share something that I learned with you. I don't lose anything. I actually gain, because when I give, I get. I had never done a book deal before in my life, and my agent was very passive for my taste. And she told me, oh, this is an amazing deal. Just take it. We love it. Great. It's a first-time author. This is 3 times the amount. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And then my intuition said, call Tabitha Brown. She has 3 books. She's done this before you. And I called Tabitha, and Tabitha said, oh, baby, absolutely not. That's very bad. And I said, oh, really? And she told me what she received in her contract, and I was able to then get twice as much than what they initially offered me, because she was not afraid to share what she had learned. So we have to be community-minded, and we cannot gatekeep that information. We have to give as freely as we have received.
Speaking of being community-minded with the information, there's 2 things I want to talk about. One is the Image Awards, which Nicholas referenced at the beginning of our conversation. How many of you have seen the NAACP Image Awards on television? It's a great show, right? Oftentimes when the people get up who win the award, they'll thank Jesus, then they'll thank their mama. And then they'll also say that winning that award means more to them than awards they may have won or may not have won elsewhere, because it's coming from their community, right? You're an Image Award nominee. I'm an Image Award nominee.
And winner.
Oh, well, I didn't win. I lost to this guy with big
winner.
ears named Barack Obama, but that's a whole long story. I'll tell you some other time. But I just wanted to point out that the NAACP has been in this fight to make sure that people are recognized for the talent and the contributions that they make, even when others refuse to recognize them. Another point on how we are community-minded in our sharing of information gets back to tomorrow's symposium, Be in the Biz. It's going on all day long. We are flying in industry experts from Los Angeles, some coming in from New York. These are people who have years and years and years of experience in the business, have done so many things: television writing, film writing, directing, producing. There's agents and publicists and managers. There's network executives, studio executives. These are people who have a tremendous amount of information to share with you and are willing to do that. Why? Because they come from our community. So they're doing exactly what Steve was talking about. And you're going to be one of our panelists.
Yeah.
As is Mona. And Nicholas, you going to attend? No. Yes. Yes. Share some final thoughts with the audience about the entertainment industry, whether or not it's a fertile ground for them to consider pursuing a career, and if so, the kind of spirit that they need to bring to that endeavor. You go first, Mona.
Yes, it's fertile ground, long as people are able to create. And I think creatives is what we are as black people. We've always had to bring something from nothing. So the entertainment business is just another piece of the pie. But I feel like much as people can jump into who they are, like he said, the authenticity of who you are, keeping the integrity and mastering your craft is a must before you step into this realm. And I think that will take you to a level in time to where you would want to be able to have your own lane.
Next.
Okay. First of all, what a beautifully moderated conversation. We appreciate you. It was a flow going on. It was very Jay-Z of journalism. Thank you. I think I'll just reiterate the points that we said up here already, just to drive them home. Remain teachable, remain teachable, remain teachable. No ego is required to be in this space. We prefer it not to be, because a big part of you continuing to work is, are you likable? Because you can be skilled, but if no one wants to work with you, you will not receive that call, even though you're qualified on paper. And then again, remain of service and allow those doors to open up. I promise you I'm a byproduct of that. Find someone greater than you to serve, and those doors will fly open.
Yeah, I'll say everything that's been said is the right path. Obviously, there's a space for you. If you love what you want to do, then there's a space for you in the industry. My final thought would be, just remember, as you continue to climb, to create that circle and generate those resources back to us.
Amen.
We're your marketers. We're your hairstylists. We're your executive assistants. We are your marketing team. So, you know, there are resources that you can send back to those that got you to where you're going to be, and just keep that in mind as you climb in this journey.
I think this was an excellent conversation. I think the purpose of this conversation was to share with you some insights that may help you decide whether or not tomorrow's event would be the right thing for you to attend. And if you feel that way, we'd love to see you. But in the meantime, please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is great.